Today's guest is Jim Wendler. Jim played football and graduated from University of Arizona, where he was a three-time letter winner. Jim went on to squat 1,000 pounds in competition and accomplished 2,375-pound total as an elite lifter. He has coached high school athletes, collegiate athletes, trained general population, spoken globally on the topics of strength training, conditioning, fat loss, performance, and program design. Jim is also the creator of the iconic 531 program, one of the most influential and widely adopted strength templates ever developed. Jim, welcome to the Primal Foundations podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's an honor for me. I've used your program. It seems like every high school strength coach has some knowledge or has
Yeah.
heard of this program. So it's a really great day to sit down and talk to you. Zoom to Zoom instead of face to face, I guess. But yeah, for some of the listeners, kind of talking about your background first, and just kind of get to know
Mhm.
you a little bit. What got you into strength training and, you know, back when you were starting, what resources did you have, strength coach, literature, etc.
The story goes, I was bugging. My dad was a football coach, athletic director, PE teacher, and so sports were always a big part of our house. And for years, when I was, I don't know, fourth, fifth, sixth, I don't remember exactly. I was bugging my old man to take me to the weight room. I just wanted to lift, and I think I'm going to guess because I don't remember exactly, but it's probably just the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone. I was obsessed with being big and powerful and stuff. And I was, an average kid, so to speak. And I was bugging him forever. And he was always like, "You're too young, just do push-ups and sit-ups." And I was like, "No, I want to, lift weights." Anyway, long story short, between the summer, between my seventh and eighth grade year, he sat me down. I'll never forget this and said, "Listen, we're going to start training. I'll go." He went in with me and trained with me. And he's like, once you commit, you can't stop. I don't care how much you hate it, but this is something you have to stick with. And I was like, yep, yep, yep. And so that was what, like 2 or 3 months or something. And I remember my first day of school, eighth grade year. I remember the t-shirt I was wearing. I remember walking in through the door. And I remember one of my friends who I hadn't seen all summer said, "Oh my God, what did you do?" And I was like, "I didn't know." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Dude, you look massive." So my sixth grade and seventh grade year, I played, as many sports as I could. And I also ran cross country. I ended up qualifying for the state meet in junior high when I was in seventh grade. By the time track came around my eighth grade year, I was the fastest kid in the school. I played football seventh and eighth grade year. My eighth grade performance in football was insane. I threw the disc farther. I set the school record in the discus. So I saw all these things. I went downstate in the wrestling. Uh, it's the first year I ever wrestled because you could play basketball and wrestle. That was the first year that you could play both sports. They separated the seasons. I had never wrestled before. I made it to the state meet. All these like things changed in my life, and I was just stronger. That's it. Now I wasn't like what you would call strong, uh, and I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, we had posters on the wall. We had like a universal, a lot of people they know universal machines, but there was like a circuit, giant universal circuit. We had all these different stations, probably 8 or 10 stations, leg press, dips, lat pull downs, bench press, shoulder press. And then we would just go around and around, 3 sets of everything. And the that was pretty much the extent of what I had access to was whatever posters were on the wall in the high school weight room. Because again, my dad was in the high school; he would take me there. And then uh, when I continued lifting right through every season, I never missed a day. 3 times a week, we would just basically do the same basic thing every all days. And then we started working with the barbell probably 3 or 4 months into it. And I remember the first time I put a bar on my back. Oh, it hurts, like it was. But I quickly got, fairly strong because again, we didn't miss any days. And there was a high school teacher who ended up coaching me in track. He was my discus coach, and he was big. I still think I look back and he was super strong. He was, 35-year-old dude. I saw him hang clean 290 for 10 reps and without a belt on, just super explosive. And when I first got into the weight room, a lot of times the high school kids would be in there, and it's very intimidating because there's like, 35 kids in there, and I'm just a little dork kid. And Darren, this coach, never talked to me, never said a word to me. And then one day, like 6 months in, he like said something to me, like, maybe you should probably do some straight leg deadlifts. I'll never forget this. And I was like, okay. I was like, I don't know what. Uh, and then after about a year, he kind of took me under his wing, so to speak, and he taught me about, how to squat a little better, how to do cleans and jumps. We started doing a ton of jumping. Anyway, long story short, he kind of became my mentor. So he's the one that kind of set me right. Now, we talk about information. The only thing I had access to is my parents, because I'm like very obsessive about something. As soon as I want to do something, that's like my main focus. And my parents bought me it wasn't the Arnold Encyclopedia. It was something similar to that. That was an Arnold book, much thinner. And that's where I learned about the different exercises and stuff. So I just, you have a picture or a book with some pictures and a couple descriptions, and then the posters that were on the wall that maybe described like the start of the squat, the bottom of the squat, and the top. That was about it. So the good bad thing is one, obviously you have to kind of learn on your own. But the good thing is you got to learn on your own, and you got to throw a lot of stuff on the wall. As I'm sure everyone here knows, every week I had a different perfect workout, and this lasted all the way through pretty much through my high school years. But the thing is as I got stronger, I started finding magazines that my dad would have, because he was the athletic director, and he would have like publications sent, from different sporting things. And I remember reading about the throwers, because the discus, shot putters, hammer throwers were really ahead of their time. That's when I learned about George Friend. Like, that's awesome. Like, imagine learning about like the old box squats from the West Side Bar. I had no idea. So, throughout my high school career, I kind of had a system, and as basically I would always try to get a PR set. That was just what I did. I found the set rep max when I was a kid. I remember the magazine I was reading in. It was an article on Bruno Paletto, and he talked about having how to compare rep maxes. You could, calculate your 1RM or something like that. So I was like, listen, if I just keep on trying to bump it up, and so I would just choose random weights pretty much. So if I squatted, 225 for 8, what can I do with 235 to better that two, you know what I'm saying? So I would just plug in. This is what I did all day. I didn't even have a calculator. That's why I'm really good at math, I think, like the basic stuff, because I did so many calculations. And that's how I trained. I would just try and beat my PR. That's it. And that's what set the tone for the 5-through-1 program, if I'm going to be honest, because I love training like that. It's not for everyone, because you got to be ultra competitive. You got to be ready to put it on the line, so to speak, every day. But that's what I did. And my performance in school, or in sports, I should say, not school, improved drastically. I mean, drastically. And I was fairly self-aware, when I was in junior high and high school, that I didn't look like my football heroes, because that's all I wanted to do was play college football. That was it. Mm-hmm. And once I got better at, strength training, I got stronger. Like, I got better, and I was like, oh, I just got to get stronger and bigger. That's it. That's my key. And I found something that I could control that could make up for any deficiencies. Now, we all know now, genetically, like, you got to have good genetics to go far. And I made up for average genetics by training harder. It's just never going to get you over the real hump, if we're going to be completely honest. And one of the things I've had a real epiphany on when I train high school kids now, the high school football team, is I see pictures of like Myles Garrett when he was in high school. It's unbelievable. Or Nick Chubb, who was in high school. It looked like you and I could never lift or take enough drugs to look like either of those guys when they were in high school. And you realize how important training is if you're just an average dude, because it's not going to make you into an NFL player, but man, you can go far. And that's essentially what my entire focus the last 10 years has been, is I don't really care about the freaks on the field, because there's nothing we can do training wise that's ever going to make, a 6'5", 250-pound high school kid run a 4.4. That's just how he's built. He's got great parents. Not saying he doesn't work hard, but what do I need to do to make our average kids. Now they're good athletes, but they're not NFL athletes. No one's going to Ohio State, from London here. What can we do training wise to compete against the good athletes, better athletes? And as a coach at London, since I start now, this is not just me. I'm gonna make that very clear. We have a really good team of coaches and stuff, but I started my first off season was prior to the 2017 season, and the year prior we won 3 games. We have never missed the playoffs. Last year we went to the Final Four, the only public team to make it to the Final Four. We've only had one D1 athlete since I've been here, and I think 2 others probably could have played. They went to a little lower levels of school. So to see that kind of success happening at a small school in Ohio, and our kids, like our D line, probably last year averaged like 165, and we're absolute barn burners. I mean,
Wow.
explosive. They could all deadlift well or trap bar well over 400 pounds. Our linemen, again, our offensive linemen, not the biggest guys in the world, but they're quick and they're incredibly strong. And we're just, the kids overcome whatever, just like I had to overcome anything that they don't have by just training consistently and just giving good effort. That's all it comes down to. So I know we're kind of jumping off track here, but that's because I see how I was, and everyone around this area, Ohio State's massive. What is Ohio State doing with their athletes? It doesn't matter. They got 5-star athletes. So I'm not concerned about, and I see a lot of high school coaches trying to emulate what Ohio State does. Well, that's why they're so good. No, because they're genetically gifted. So I wanted to make something specific for people that grew up like me. And that's kind of what I'm doing with the high schools. I want to make a bunch of average dudes ass kickers. That's what it comes down to. So
Yeah. And sometimes one, sometimes like that compliment you were talking about, that gets you hooked, I
yeah,
mean, let's be honest, some
yeah,
compliments when you're younger in high school or grade school and people are like, "What are
yeah,
you doing?
yeah,
You're looking swole." You're like, "Oh, I'm gonna keep
yeah.
doing
I don't
this."
know what I'm like, and my parents put on like 10 years ago or so, they put a bunch of my old high school stuff on DVDs from that they had on VHS, and one of them was one of my wrestling meets from junior high. So I put it in, and I'm just watching. It's grainy and wobbly and stuff, and I was just put it in. I'm watching. I'm like, dude, who is this kid? I mean, traps are up to here walking.
Yeah.
Now like, that kid is jacked, and it was me. I had no idea. I kept on, I'm like, oh my god, that's me. That was like because I never, when you got that body dysmorphia shit going on when you're that age, and but I realized like, wow, what a difference it made to be able to. I'm just happy I can pass this shit down. It's so important, I think. So, but yeah, the training is like the refuge for the average. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen like high-end professional athletes train, and you're like, oh my god, oh boy, oh it's bad. It's bad. I
Yeah.
saw some guys train in person. I was like, oh boy, like whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And talking about speaking about, passing knowledge down, you spent some time at Westside, right?
Yeah. So I learned when I was in college. I saw an interview with Louis. This was at the old testosterone.net. It turned into T Nation, but testosterone was how it started out. And it was an interview with Louis. And at that time, I had kind of hit like a road where I didn't know. I wanted to expand my training knowledge, but I didn't want to read random books because everything I had read up to then was kind of, you try it out and like, dude, no, there's no way this is right. And I remember reading at the interview with Louis, he said, if you're explosive and fast, I can make you strong. Well, shit, I was explosive and fast for, not saying I was running a 4.4, but I could jump high and all that other stuff. And so I'm like, well, who is this guy? This guy's bananas. And so I started looking into it. I started playing around with it a little bit with the training. And then long story short, I ended up getting a job at Elite FTS. I got to know Dave Tate. And then so when I moved out here, I was a coaching at the University of Kentucky, and I moved out to Ohio, and that's when I started training at Westside, and I don't maybe 2003 or something. But I had been very familiar with what they were doing, and I had talked to Louie and Dave for several years prior to that. So, yeah, it was an awesome time. an awesome time. My recollection of what it was like to train at Westside is very different than what I've seen in videos and stuff like that, because it was fun. I had a
Yeah.
blast, and it was very much like how I've not saying it's very intense and stuff like that, but it's just a bunch of dudes who want to get strong, and they were busting each other's balls and making fun of each other. It wasn't like cutthroat like I've seen it. Not saying you didn't try, but it wasn't like, I'm going to beat you up if you get this. It's like, dude, come on, you fucking suck, dude. Like, time, it was a bunch of dudes just wanting to get strong. It was, for me, it was a lot of fun. So I just want people to know that I think a lot of the stuff you see has kind of been glamorized a little bit. Again, not saying that it wasn't intense, but it's a lot different than what I experienced. And like I got to train with Chuck Vogelpohl. He's fucking hilarious. He's a good dude. Like everyone think, not saying he's not intense, but we had a great time together. And
That,
do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if that maybe
no, yeah. I
punctures.
just to be like because you see the Instagram, you see the YouTube shorts and things like
Yeah,
that. It's just like to be a fly on the wall and to just rub elbows with those people and everybody's there for this common goal. Like, hey, let's get stronger.
yeah.
Let's get
But it was
stronger.
like
Let's find this because they do like the conjure
the conjure.
programming. Yeah,
Yeah.
conjure programming and like it's like some of the cool things you see, and we're gonna talk about some auxiliary lifts and like chains and rubber bands. And I was like, oh, this is bonkers, man.
It was fun. And a lot of like there was rhyme and reason to some of it. And at the same time, it was like, dude, what do you want? You want to try this? Like, let's see what happens. We'll be fine. And yeah, so
Throw a little caution to the wind.
yeah, well, what are you gonna do? So, but yeah, I had and I got to do a ton of seminars with Dave. I got to do some seminars with Louis. It was awesome. And it's like, I got the most important, like Louis, in all my years of doing all this stuff, Louis is the smartest man in regards to train. And I don't say that lightly because I've met some really smart, good coaches, but it's just overall training knowledge and creativity. Louis, 100%, 100%. And the one thing I think needs to be said is you got to speak Louis. You have to learn Louis and what he's trying to say and what he is saying to understand all of it. I don't know if that, because he can say all this stuff and you're like, what is he talking about? But if you take a
Yeah,
step back, you're like, oh, okay. And it's not as uh, easy, I guess, to interpret sometimes. But yeah, if you understand Louis, you can. So, and I'm
yeah,
telling you this, Louis is one of the funniest dudes I've ever met. I mean, fucking hilarious. Like good dude. Uh, I that's the other. I just wish people would know that side of Lou. I really did. It's just incredibly witty. And
yeah.
so, and I'll tell you what, the other thing is when I was coaching I was doing my graduate assistant stuff at Kentucky, and I got to know Lou and Dave, and I was not making any money being an intern, GA, whatever. And Louis found ways for me to make money. Like, hey,
Yeah.
can you do this for me? And I, get a check for $1,000. And when you're fucking poor as shit, man, I was making like $800 a month. Like that's huge. I mean, I got food. And so him and Dave both offered me lifelines when I really, really needed it. I mean, really needed it. So I'm internally grateful. I mean, Dave he is in here, in town here, and we still keep in touch. And I was very lucky to meet both those guys, so very, very
No.
blessed.
It's always great to just hear like good things about people and just know they're still amazing people that
Yeah.
got your back in this world and just to have that amazing experience and just live that. That's such a cool
Yeah.
time of your life. That's awesome. Uh, and this 531 program, right? And we're talking about all this different information, all these different training styles and everything.
Yeah.
For the listeners, if you just a big broad stroke for some that might not know, like what is the 531 program and like who's it really for?
So the reason why I wrote that is twofold, but if I'm going to look back, I wish I had something like that when I was growing up. And it's for people who maybe don't know a ton about training. My audience is not people like you, like business professionals in this business. My audience and most people's audience are regular dudes. They have jobs outside of this, and they just need to be told what to do. And that's all it came down to. And I've always been one of those guys, just tell me what to do. I don't care what it is. If I need to climb this fucking hill and kill 10 people up there, fine. I don't need to know the whys. We talked about this before. Just tell me what to do. Let me do it. And so I wanted to do something where like the numbers were on paper, you just looked at it and just did it. And I love non-negotiable training. I don't want to have to think too much. And that's one of the things that you got to be really good at the more advanced you get. And I got really good at that. The last 2 years of powerlifting, I think I was at the peak of my advanced training. Like I understood exactly what weights needed to be, what I needed to do, and it was awesome. But the majority of people aren't there. Like you can't just say, like, you figure it out. You know, and that's why I started that was like, listen, here's your numbers. This is what you want to do. Here's some, you can have some uh, variations on the assistance. That's fine. Like you can kind of decide that. But for this main stuff, this is what you're going to do. Go out there and kick ass. And that's pretty much what it's for. It's for people. And it doesn't matter, you know, we use it with the football team. Uh, Obviously, it goes, you can use it if you're a MMA fighter. You can always alter it based on what you're doing. And that's, now you have to make some changes. I totally get that. But it's for anyone that needs to get stronger and does other stuff too. That's the other thing. It's not just lifting weights. You know, whether it's stressors from your home or work, or if you're like a first responder, or if you're in the military and you got to run and do all this, that's why I developed it, was for people who wanted to get strong, but was also doing other things and just needed to be like told exactly what to do. So that's pretty much how it started.
Yeah, just you always emphasize like the simplicity of the program. You know, why do you think so many people overcomplicate training so much or like are all over the place of I'm gonna do the 9 week this and like a five
Yeah.
week that? Why do you think people are just always jumping
Uh, I,
around?
I think, well, I went through that too. I think once you get past like the first couple months, you start reading a ton and you have information overload. Even when I was growing up, wasn't privy to all the information there is, and I still was like going everywhere. So I think it's just you're just trying to find your way. And I think it's the other thing is I think it's fun. The other thing that I don't, if you keep like the basics of your training in it, you can vary a lot. I know what I'm saying. Now, if you go from like a Olympic lifting program to a bodybuilding program, that's going to be a little different. But if you know, if, as long as you're squatting and squatting hard and benching and building muscle, maybe it doesn't matter as much as we like to think. Um, the problem is the one, and I've went through this many times, and I look back in my life, the more options I had, the less progress I made. And I think there's something with brain power and body power, or, you know, effort, where if you're just told X, Y, and Z, sometimes those get you the best results because you're not worrying about all the other stuff. So, but I think everyone needs, especially once you get past like the first couple of years, that's when you start doing all the crazy shit. Like I'm going to do boards and weight releasers and reverse band and double bands and chains all at the same time. We're doing everything. Uh, so but that's, you know, one of the good things I like training with the high school kids is like I have control over the weights they put on the bar, the exercises they do, and I can get them to avoid all the dumb shit that you know, that I did. You know, the other thing too is as a coach, you have to understand that no one likes training more than you. There's not a single kid that cares that much. And that's another thing you know, with coaches, you're like, why don't you, you know, study the ankle mobility of the Olympic lift? It's like, I don't care. Like, just, do I got to squat or not? What do I got to do? And I think that's important to know is the kids don't care as much as you do. And that's fine. Then you have to alter your training, you know, your program a little bit to make up for that. And that was something I learned a long time ago, but it was like an eye opener for me. Like the people you work with generally don't love training as much as you know. So, but
Yeah, I tell the high school kids and even clients too. I'm just like, we got to get really, you got to be brilliant at the basics. I feel like I'm
yeah,
just a broken record saying that. And I've even
yeah,
got it on slides
yeah,
for like our summer strength and conditioning. I'm just getting slides ready for that. And
yeah,
I'm like, just we need to be brilliant at the basics. Like, if I'm gonna be a piano player or whatever, I gotta, you know, I gotta play the piano. Once I get some basic music fundamentals down, like if I want
yeah,
to go for the clarinet for a little bit. cool, but like I got to know the notes, right?
Yes.
So,
Yep. Well,
yeah,
one of the things I stressed to the kids in the school, and I said every high school program squats, benches, does some kind of pulling movement, whether it's trap bar or power cleans. I'm like, the only thing that separates us from everyone else is we just do it better than everyone. Our standards are higher, our effort is greater, our consistency is better. That's it. And so I get a ton of messages from high school coaches and stuff like, what are you guys doing? And then I show them, they're like, that's it. I'm like, yeah, that's it. We do one main lift a day, we do 2 to 3 assistance movements, and then we go out and run. That's it. And we do some jumping and stuff like that. But every time it's like, well, we did squats, we did overhead press, we did rows, and then we went out and ran. What?
yeah,
Yeah, but we do it because we have a junior high program my wife runs. That starts in 7th grade. We have 6 years with these kids. So the way I look at it is if we are consistent and we train usually 50 weeks out of the year, and we're in there no matter what, I don't have to kill these kids. We don't have to load the bar terribly heavy. Just come in, I would love for you to work really hard, but if you just want to have a good day, that's fine too. And we just stack good days on good days. And that's why we're able to not do a ton. Like we run year round. The only time we don't run is during the season, during practice. We don't do any conditioning because the kids run from the day that the last game is played. The next week we come in, we're already running. We're never out of shape. So we never have to have like a conditioning period ever. So our kids don't have to go like the last 4 weeks before camp when then everyone's running a ton. Our kids are fine. And the other thing I'm going to go off on the track here is after the last week, after the first season I was there, I didn't do any of the strength training stuff. And I told the head coach, just let me do it all. I'll do everything. You don't have, because he was doing all the training. And so I started doing it it was like the first 2 weeks of the new off season. And we had won 3 games. It was a horrible season. And the coach asked me, he's like, and I didn't know him like I know him now. We're really good friends. He's like, hey, what do you think we should change here? And I was like, hey, cut is Kyle Cutler. I was like, how honest do you want me to be, bud? And he's like, just give it to me. And I was like, this. And we changed everything. It was the George Costanza moment of my life. Like we just did the opposite of everything we did. We cut out 2-a-days. We did all this other stuff. We cut out and we simplified our offense and defense to the degree it's comical. Because, the kids aren't, Bill Belichick. Listen, you just got this gap. All you got to worry about is this gap. And then if we call this, then you just worry about this gap. That's all you have to do, kid. So it was an awesome lesson in things that we learned when we were kids and football players and we needed to keep and what we needed to throw away. That's not just because that's what we did before. And so we threw a lot of stuff like, why do we do this? I don't know. Let's not do it anymore because I don't think it's smart. So I always call it, you don't have to honor every ghost. All those things that you used to do. Dude, I got a message from some guy who got mad because we don't do 2-a-days. You're not developing spirit. I'm like, whatever you get in 2-a-days, we get year round because we never miss days. I'm like that hard
yeah.
work and consistency because we don't need to. We're already in good shape. Our kids are always doing skill work, at least twice a week where they go out and walk through plays and stuff. So by the time the season rolls around, they've run, student body right 5 billion times. Like they know what's
Mhm.
going on. So I don't know. It's been the best experience of my life being here because I got to be part of something that is like exactly my dream of a football team, of what is expected out of the kids. We play the game like we don't pass the ball. We probably pass the ball twice a game. The crowd goes bananas when we pass the ball. But we'll rush. I mean, we had one year we rushed for like 500 yards a game, and they probably didn't play a starter in the fourth quarter the entire year. I mean,
Wow.
just we run the shit out of the ball, and we are good. And like you see our linemen, they're 5'10", 185 coming out there, they'll fucking knock you on their head. They will, they're just stronger and better. That's it. And it's pretty amazing watching that. So I know I'm blabbing on, but it's been
Uh,
awesome to be part of something that's bigger than me. And I see our kids succeed.
I love it. I love, and that going back to that, the person's like, we can't believe we don't do 2-a-days, like because it, more sometimes isn't better. And
No,
this is what I tell people, more isn't better. Better is better.
better.
So for
Yeah.
our kids, for athletes, whomever, it's not just dumping things on. Like any coach and any trainer can crush you. Like they can
Yep.
totally crush you. Fine, great. You're on the floor at the end and you can't breathe anymore.
Yep.
What the hell? How does that help me?
Yeah.
And they have that mentality. You gotta push through. You gotta do this. You gotta do that. You gotta like be crawling out of the gym. Like that's just gonna hinder you.
Yeah.
Like let's do the things that make us better and breaking you down. And you said this earlier, and I wanted to get to it, but you just if you want to touch upon it,
Yeah.
stacking wins,
Yeah.
stacking wins.
Well, when you're working with young people, we can go into this, but a lot of the kids will come in. They're not remotely fully developed adults, right? Obviously, they're young kids, and a lot of them they haven't had maybe much success in their life. Not saying that it's you know uh, Oliver Twist or anything like that, but I want them because training to me is more than just getting bigger and getting stronger. It's developing confidence to attack the world, so to speak. Shoulders back, head up kind of thing. And when young men, and I assume this goes for women too, but I don't care because I just don't care. I got two boys. So, but when you allow a young man to accomplish something physically that they didn't think they could do. And it's not like big. It's not like, listen, you got to go through hell week, buddy. It's, listen, you benched 100 pounds. Holy shit. Look at all that work you put in. Congratulations. And now, instead of having their head down, it's a little higher. And then the next week you say, listen, I know you can the dumbbell squat 50 pounds for 15 reps. It's like, oh man, I've only done 40 for 10. I think you can do it. And you always give them tasks that they can accomplish, but they don't know. I constantly give kids like, listen, I bet you can get 12 here. What? And you're like, dude, you can probably get 30, I'll be honest, but let's just get 12. And I just want them to stack good physical accomplishments and challenges day after day. Now, they're not, like I said, it's not like running a marathon. It's little stuff. And obviously, it's not going to happen every day, but you try to get something done with each kid as much as possible. And all of a sudden, that confidence starts building, right? The self-esteem gets better. So I'm not giving them hollow bullshit like, oh, you're the best. No, you know what? You prove that you have the work ethic and the attitude to go from point A to point Z. Look at all the things you've done. And I have a kid right now who's never played a sport in his life, never played football, never trained. Uh, he works his ass off. I don't know if he's ever going to see the field, but he could barely bench the barbell. All right. He did like 135 for like 12 reps. And he was able to finally squat with the barbell. I mean, he pushed his set so hard, and he's determined to get better. And I think last week, so he's probably been there maybe 10 weeks. The last week, and he's overweight. I saw him during the day, and I was first time his traps started coming in a little bit. He's not like gonna take off his shirt and like impress anyone, but he looked different. And I was like, dude, look at you, like an attack on the world. I love it. And he's like, yeah, yeah. And his attitude already changed. Like that's how you build self-esteem. That's how you set young men up for success in all areas of life. You give them challenges, let them accomplish them, and then you do it again and again and again and again. And I'm tired of people saying to build self-esteem, you just got to tell them they're great. No, they have to fucking prove it day in and day out that they're great. And in regards to like the trainers smoking guys, I always love it because everyone looks to the Navy SEALs, right? Hell Week and Buds. Everyone gets hurt. Everyone does. Even the
Yeah.
guys that passed, they all got shin splint, their shoulders all fucked up, they're chafed. And our kids aren't Navy SEALs. They're not even close to it. So why would I give them a task to do that they can't accomplish? And I mean, their fail rate is what, like probably 85%. Like what world do you live in? And those guys are the cream of the crop. So even the guys that get dropped for whatever reason, whether it's injury, they're still studs. My kids aren't even close to that, so I wouldn't expect them to do that. And the other thing is when you're coach, I coach 60 kids at once, so it's fucking chaos sometimes. Uh, the kids these days are not, they have such a low GPP level from when I was growing up, and I'm not here to down them. It's not their fault, but I can't expect them to train and do the same stuff I did. I'm 50 years old. So that was a serious eye opener for me, was I saw how low their general fitness level is. So it was, well, either I complain about it or I do something about it. So we had to weather everything down because I needed these kids to train consistently. If I'm burning the boats all the time, they're never going to want to come back ever. So I tell the kids, listen, give me an hour. Just give me an hour. We'll get you out of here. I got a standing ovation when I first addressed the team. Like, this is what I expect out of you guys. Get you in and out of here an hour. Just give me a good effort. I don't want to. Don't just do what I tell you to do. Everything will be good. The kids all stood up. I was like, and I
Start the
told them
timer,
like,
coach. Start the timer right now.
as soon as I walk in, it fucking starts. But I remember that first year, like I always tell this story. Like, I was first time in a long time I was in charge. And I remember our first game after that entire off season, those kids worked and they had no reason to trust me. I was new. You know, I wasn't part of the family, so to speak, at all. And I was like, wow, these kids put a lot of trust in me. And that first game, we had lost to that team the year prior. And I was warming up the kids. I almost puked like a dozen times because I'm like, these kids work so hard. What a kick in the nuts it would be. He steamrolled this team. I mean, everything we did just bloop, bloop. And this is before we even knew who we were. Like, the kids had no idea. And I remember one of the kids running off the field. He's like, these guys don't squat, you know? And but now I have some I have enough background now with working with the team where the kids are, they like, listen, I'll just do whatever you tell me. But back then, you know, we had a super group of kids who were willing to give me their trust and stuff. And so that first senior class, I give them a ton of credit. They're the ones that changed this entire program. They really did. And they had no
Yeah.
reason to trust me. Like, who's this tattooed idiot that's coming in thinking he knows how to train people, you know? So I still keep in touch with a lot of those kids too. So it's been good.
Having a mentor, having a coach, like it's super impactful. And and you spend a lot of the you spend more time with those kids than they do
Yep.
sometimes with their parents, right? They're
Yep.
at school all day. You might see them at school or
Yep.
whatever. If you're in the building, you see them at practice day to day. You see them on the weekends. You see them off season. So it's like it's something that is overlooked. And I just hate that kids are getting out of athletics. I think there is a
Yeah.
little bit of a decline. It's getting too elite. Kids don't want to do it
Yeah.
anymore. There's a big drop off at that high school level.
Yeah.
But it's so good to have a mentor and a coach, and to how Louis was to you, you are
Yeah.
to these kids, which is awesome.
Yeah. And you know, the other thing I tell coaches is, like, I want the kids to want to come in. I want them to, like, and I've probably yelled 6 times since I've been there. Uh, so I'm not going to get on you a little bit. I mean, obviously I'm going to encourage you, but I'm not going to be like, you piece of shit. What do you think? I'm like, no, like, if you don't want to give the effort, that's fine. Like, I got 59 other kids in here. But I also, like we said, I'm not going to smoke you every day. Like, you know, you're going to come in, everyone's getting, like I always say, like, we do a full body training. So on
Hmm.
days that we squat, we'll also do upper body. But my big thing is, these kids are just need to build muscle. Like, everyone wants to get all this, like, our kids got no muscle. So I'm a big fan of Boyd Epley, the godfather of strength training for football. And his main focus, this is Boyd Epley. If his main focus is as basic as building muscle for his stud athletes at Nebraska, then what am I doing trying to develop, like, the one leg, you know, Bosu hop? No, we just need
Yeah.
a little jack. So I always, like, tell the kids, like, listen, after we squat, everyone's getting jacked today. And then the kids, they just, and our kids are all bigger than everyone else. They're not, meaning they're as big as they're going to get, I should say. Meaning they're not like bodybuilders, but all our kids got traps. All our kids got butts, got big arms, shoulders, and uh, the kids like to do that stuff. So I'm like, listen, we need to do it anyway. Let's just have some fun and do it. So it's not all super specific sports. We're just getting stronger, building muscle, jumping and running. That's all it comes down to. And so,
Yeah, and that sports, and you mentioned sports specific training, thoughts on that,
well, there's a couple things. One, again, we're dealing with very low general physical preparedness. And I answer questions on this every single day. It's like, I got a 13-year-old girl who lacks acceleration. Her first step is slow. I'm like, well, how many pull-ups can she do? Well, she can't do any. Can she squat without her knees coming in? No, 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 no. We don't do that. It's like, well, let's do the basic stuff first. Let's just build some muscle, get her a little stronger. She's not going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger after 6 months. Um, the other thing is, I saw a very, very big time high school. I'm not going to name it. The facilities would blow your mind. I watched them train, and it was all sports specific stuff, and it was horrible. Even like that, the technique and stuff. Like I'd be like, dude, if a kid did that in our weight room, the kids would laugh them out of there. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Our kid, not
Yeah.
me, them, they would. And then I look around, they got like, 10 or 15 kids who are going D1. I'm like, well, that's why it doesn't matter. It matters more for us than it does for them. And the other thing is like you'll see elite sprinters, and I've seen some crazy shit being done at the same time. And if they've had success, fine. But at the same time, oh my God, I can't believe I just dropped the ball on this. Who's the great sprint coach for Ben Johnson? Oh my God. Oh, I can't believe I just dropped the ball. Famous sprint coach. He coached Ben Johnson from Canada. Charlie Francis.
Mm.
He just did squats, benches, and like lat pull downs. He's like, strength is just general. We'll worry about the other stuff when we're on the field or, on the track, so to speak. And I was like, wow, if Charlie Francis is doing it and there's elite level sprinters, then what am I trying to do? And what I've noticed too is if I get our kids strong. Now, there's a couple things with this is we never train very heavy. You would laugh your ass off at how light our kids train because every rep is awesome. Every rep is awesome. Uh, as an example, we got a kid yet 2 weeks ago when he does his trap bar work, his weights weigh from 225, 245, and 265. And he's done that for, I think, 10 weeks. That's the only weights he's touched. We worked up. He pulled 365 for 10.
Damn.
And he came up to me. First of all, he's like, thank you, coach. Because he's one of those kids, like, if you tell him, listen, do 145 for 80 reps, like, I'll just do it, whatever. He'll do it. And he came up and said, thank you so much. Because he couldn't believe he pulled 365 for 10. And he goes, I don't understand why it works, but when you just do crisp reps all the time, you get stronger and we're never burnt out. The kids' backs are never tired. They're never terribly sore, especially in their lower body. But where was I going with this? We get them strong, we put some muscle on them, and if we did sports specific stuff, they'd be fine because it's a lot of that stuff is just learning to do the crazy movement, right? But
Yep.
you can't take a kid who's done all these crazy movements and put 365 on the bar and do, say, pull 10 reps. One has a carryover to the other. I learned that from Dave Tate. Remember that squatting on a Bosu ball was a thing?
Yeah.
You can teach that to Chuck Vogelpohl, right? It may take a few sessions like that, but he'd get it down. But you can't take that same guy and put, 1,200 pounds on his back and expect him to squat it. So one thing has a carryover to the other. That doesn't mean I'm like just Frankenstein when I, like just, but at the same time, like if you are, 25% body fat and you weigh 165 pounds, what are we doing? Let's get a little leaner. Let's put some muscle on. Let's get you a little stronger. Let's get you to squat 225. Well, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
So I know I'm just blabbing. The most
No.
important thing is the more average you are, more below average you are, fucking train hard, be consistent, give effort, you'll be fine. And again, you're not going to go to the NFL. Like one of my favorite things I ever heard. How do I increase my vertical jump? And guy I know said, get new parents. It's like,
That's a good one. I'm using that.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure you see it all the time. You got parents who think their kid's going to go here and here. And,
From fifth grade.
oh, and yeah,
They're
it's
already
tough.
planning on
Yeah.
them going to Division 1 and getting a scholarship for fifth
Yeah.
grade. I told a parent the other day we played badminton, and
Yeah.
I'm like, "Hey, your kid won our like PE class
Yeah.
badminton tournament or
Yeah.
whatever," and then they get to play me at the end. And I just smoke them,
Yeah.
But the parents said the dad looks at me and goes, "Badminton." He
Huh?
told me about that he did really. I'm like, he's got just a touch for it, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, "Is there any college money in that?" I was just like, I don't think so, man. I don't know. I don't know any badminton. Although I just say it's all female. It was a boy who won, but it was all I just say is all female badminton. That's all I know of. I don't think it is a boy sport.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, if there's any college badminton, I have no idea.
That's
But he
funny.
immediately goes to there any college money in that? I was like, I don't know. Maybe I make maybe on the international circuit, buddy. But
That's
the
funny.
yeah, the high expectations, the unfortunately, and I just had this conversation on our other podcast. Shout out Nate and Nikki for the Let's Talk Strength podcast. We had Angelo Gingerelli on, and he is the strength coach at Seton Hall. And he wrote this
Okay.
book called the book's called The Next 4 Years, and getting kids prepared and what's expected of like navigating college and getting into
Hmm.
college. And he's like, why the hell? And we like clipped it. It was like a great clip. Why the hell am I trying to get a kid to do a one arm bench press on a Bosu ball when they
Yeah.
can't even do a one push up?
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
he's like, I got AAU kids, basketball kids that are coming in and they cannot do a lunge. He's like, this is a real problem.
Yeah.
They might be really great at basketball, but like they can't even do a lunge. He's like, that's just going to compound, and athletes are the best at compensating over
Yes.
time.
Yep.
It doesn't show during gameplay, but if you ask them to do a movement screener or ask them to do a lunge, it doesn't look right, and like that's just going to lead to injury.
Yeah. It's all SPP and no GPP.
Yeah, no,
And the other
100%.
thing I would love if I had that same kind of control over like a professional baseball team. If it never happened, but I thought about this. Professional baseball is essentially in-season training year round. And I'm like, I bet you I give me those guys 2 days a week and we'll take care of all the issues. Because it doesn't take like when people think of training, if there's still coaches here at the high school, our 3 and 2 and 3 sport athletes who freak out that the kids train. I was like, what do you think we're doing up here? Do you think we're doing like 30 sets of 10 on the squat? Like we're doing
Yeah.
explosive reps. We're doing some very basic stuff and then we're leaving. And I think when people think of like when, like, for example, the basketball players, they think of training is going to smoke them. It doesn't. It doesn't have to be like that. We can make great progress without killing you. And I think everyone thinks it's just bodybuilding or something. I don't know. That kind of where you walk out of the weight room like Tom Platz and your legs are shaking. Like that's not going to happen. I
Yeah.
mean, unless you're do something stupid, but for the most part, a good coach won't let that happen. So, but it's, at the other thing, it's another thing why genetics rule. I mean, if you're 6'7" and can run like the wind and you dunk a basketball since you're like a freshman in high school, I mean, who am I to tell these guys how to train? I hate to say
Yeah.
that, but at the same time, I remember Dave Tate talking about that when Louis would get critical about how professional athletes train, football players. And it's like, Louis, they're making millions of dollars doing what they've been doing. What are you going to tell them? Like
Yeah.
they've obviously had success. Not saying that that's the right thing, but who would you listen to if you just signed a $55 million contract? Like, well, whatever I've been doing has been working pretty well.
It's
So
like nutritionist trying to talk to Chad
yeah,
Ochocinco. The guy
yeah,
eats McDonald's every day, and
that's
he's like, "What are you going to tell him? Oh, you got to eat cleaner." It's like, "No,
yeah.
I'm good."
I love his reasoning is that's why everyone gets hurt. They eat too healthy.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's like you need those chemicals in your body to keep it strong. It's like, well, whatever. I don't care. Like I see it with like DK Metcalf. He doesn't eat very well.
Yeah.
And the guy's actually tons of muscle on him. And again, like, welcome to the world of genetics. You know,
Yeah.
I wrote an article and I did a video and I wrote an article about this on my forum about the biggest mistake I made when I was playing college football was, and even in high school, was I saw the big time stars, that were big running backs who were like 5'10", 235, 245, and they could run like the wind. And I thought, well, shit, I just got to get that big. I got that big and I was horribly out of shape and I couldn't move very well. And I wish someone would have told me, you're not him. You just got to be the best version of you can be. And if that means you're 205, 210 pounds, so be it. Screw it. And this, com- always comparing yourself to the freaks is going to ruin you. It'll sabotage your training or your sports career. Just be the best, awesome version of yourself that you can be. And so I came up with like a formula, like based on your height, like of the guys that I've been around for the last 30 years, what I call average dudes. What's approximately the least and most body weight you should have if you want to be super strong and very well conditioned? And people got a little upset, like, well, I'm way over that. I'm like, yeah, but can you run consecutive 6 minute miles? Well, no. Well, then you're a little too chunky. And it's okay. I'm not telling you you have to look like you have to be that, but if you are an average guy, like these are generally the weights you should be around if you want to be, still not saying you're going to bench 500 pounds, but if if you want to be an awesome average guy, that's pretty much what it comes down to.
I mean, you look at gymnastics, right? Weight's a factor,
Yeah,
for the men and for the females, boxing, wrestling, and
yeah,
it's all going to be contingent on your kind of your body fat and your outcome of your performance. So
yeah.
it's a thing you got to talk about because it does matter. You have to
Yes.
have those conversations.
The other crazy thing is I saw a guy did a study on guys that passed the special operator stuff for like the Air Force, the Navy, the Rangers and those SF units, as well as like CrossFit. And the people that had the highest outcomes had the most muscle mass. That was the greatest determinant. Granted, you still had to run and do all this other stuff, but muscle mass was super important. And I was like, oh my God. So it doesn't matter if you're a combat controller ass kicker in the Air Force or if you're a CrossFit, like that's how important muscle mass was. And it was like here I am at my age thinking like we got to do this and that. And I realized that when I was growing up, people had more muscle on them when they entered high school and started training, just because their overall GPP was higher. Like they could do pull-ups. If you get a kid now in seventh grade to able to do a pull-up, you're like, hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, my wife handles all that stuff. She's like, it is unbelievable. We had a kid who had trouble getting off the ground in sixth grade.
Hmm.
Like it was like, I was like, oh my God. And there's more to that stuff. Like I think it's important regardless if you're a young man or young woman, important to be healthy when you're a young age. It sets you up for a lifetime of not just health, but it's just like you interact socially better when you're not terribly obese. And I also think at a young age, once you set your body's like homeostasis for being overweight, it's going to stay there for a long time unless you have to diet. And then you see people who are overweight for the large chunk of their life and they get in great shape. That's diet and food is what their life revolves around. Yeah.
Case in point, myself.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
tough.
Hmm.
And like then it's awesome. But right, it becomes such a big part of your life. I don't eat like, and this is not me, like I have to watch what I eat now, but I had like 46 good years. Just whatever. I'll be fine. Not saying I was the leanest dude in the world, but like I never thought about it. So that's how much I think just working with young kids is so important. It really is because it sets them up for a lifetime of achievement. And the other thing, like I like my oldest son and youngest son both play sports. They're never going to be college athletes, I don't think, or my oldest son's in college. So he's not playing sports or anything. But I'm like, I look at sports as a way, like, let's extract what we can from the sports to help you out later in life. I don't care if you play in the NFL. I don't even care how much you play. I don't care. Like, I want you to be part of a team. I want you to be able to work through some tough times. And it's funny, like, I see sports as like, it's going to build you as a human being and not to build my bank account. And I
Hmm.
think there's a big difference in those, parents. I'll fucking pay for college. Screw it. We'll take out some loans or whatever we need to do if you want to go. So I just wish, I see so many parents like not just living through their kids, but like using them as piggy banks sometimes. It's just sad to me,
Yeah.
you know.
And it's about building the character,
Yeah,
right? Like at the end of the day, that's, sometimes nobody's going to remember the wins and the losses and who
yeah,
placed this in this conference or whatever. But it's like, I remember that kid. I remember
yeah,
that coach. I remember that team,
yeah,
right? That's the biggest thing. And I think you've even said some stories. I think I heard a podcast of like other coaches coming across, shaking your hand and be like, "Hey man, you kicked our butts." Like,
yeah.
well, what are you guys doing? Like this is great, you know?
That was a weird moment in my life where the other coach came across, and the year prior, that team kicked our ass, and we went in. I love this story. Our quarterback got hurt the week before, so we had no backup quarterback, none. So we put a wide receiver. This first time he's putting his hands for the first time in his life on some dude's grundle. He's like, oh shit. And so, he's got to run. We run a wing T offense, and it's not like he's throwing a lot, but you got to do all these fakes, whatever. And we ended up winning the game. It was like 75-0 or something. It was stupid. We scored a touchdown with 9 guys on offense. Like we had some kind of whatever. And the coach came across, well, they had a strength coach came across the field and said, I got to ask you, what the hell do you guys do? And I said, this was like I didn't think about it. He's like, I said, my goal is to make my average guy kick your average guy's ass all over the field. That's it. And he's like, holy cow. And then he told me, I love this story. He's like, do you guys have good facilities? I'm like, well, our kids raise all the money for any piece of equipment we have in that weight room. Our kids raise it selling mulch. That's how you know we live in a rural area.
Oh,
Every year we do a mulch sale. They're dropping bags off right now as I speak. And he said we can't call our training facility a weight room because they said it's intimidating to the other students and faculty. So we can't call it a weight room. And we have 2 squat racks in our weight room. They have to have all machines. So it's not intimidating. And I was like, dude, unless that changes, like what are you going to train 30 groups? Like, you
yeah.
know? And so that's another reason I'm super thankful. Like we have all power racks, dumbbells, and barbells. That's all we have really in our weight room, just because we don't have a ton of space. I mean, it's awesome. We got 16 full racks in there and a ton of dumbbells. So, but that was like a real eye opener. I was like, holy cow, we're just going to be awesome. Average guys are going to kick ass,
Yeah.
So,
That's good. And I want to end kind of with the one question. I wanted to, I
yeah.
know we went left and right.
Yeah, I
Um,
know. Listen, if you got any more questions, I'll answer them. I got, all
oh,
right.
no, no, no.
All right.
This is awesome.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to kind of touch upon this one thing before we wrap up is, in the inception of the 5-3-1, as you're putting this out there, you know, as you're living it and coaching it, what any changes that have occurred over
Oh,
that
yeah.
time? And then what's something that you see the most common mistakes people make when they're trying to implement it?
All right. So the thing that I've changed quite a bit was I lowered our training maxes. I always said 90%. I don't really use percentages so anymore, like for their training max. I just base it on bar speed. If I see a weight, I know what it should look like, whatever. But I would probably say on the squat and the deadlift, our training max is probably 75%. It's low. It is super low. And I know people don't believe it. Like, how can you get strong? I don't know. I don't understand how it works because we will stay at the same training max. This is going to you know how like every week we do a little bit better, right? We
Yeah.
add 5 pounds. No, we stay at the same basic weights for 8, 12 weeks. I don't know why it works. Then we test, kids smoke stuff. I mean, we had a kid whose heaviest weight on the bench was 195. We just, did what we did. He goes and bench 225 for 14 reps.
Yeah.
And so that's one. We lower the training max. Every rep is perfect. Every rep is perfect. And I don't get overzealous. Like if a kid really, like the kid that did 225 for 14, I didn't adjust his training max to account for that. We just went up a little bit. All right. So that's number one. Number two is, and this is because all the time working with the young kids, we bomb the assistance work. So we want good, fast reps on the barbell. I want competent reps. I want standards super high. And I don't want our kids uh, exhausted after the main lifts. I want, you understand what I'm saying. It's not
Yeah.
crazy. We want the assistance is where we get big. And that's where we start going stuff to failure because there's less of a chance of getting hurt. You're not going to get smoked after doing barbell curls to failure, right? You will if you're
Hmm.
squatting to failure for several sets. So that's where we build our muscle. So that's the other thing. I used to be all about the main lifts and like everything else is like that's the steak and the potatoes for me back in the day. Now
Hmm.
it's just part of what we do. So we have explosive reps in the barbell, we body build the assistants. The other thing I found out, and I don't know why this happened, we do very little lower body work outside of like hamstring, like RDL, kettlebell, dumbbell snatch kind of stuff. We squat and we trap bar. We do some dumbbell squats, but we don't do a lot of lower body loading. And I have found the less that I do, the stronger the kids get and the better they perform on the field. I don't know if that's a product of these kids just have low GPP and that's what they can handle. I don't know. It's because we always are jumping every day, or we're running every day, but we also push the prowler every single Friday. So that may have something to do with, because I mean, it's our prowler workouts suck.
Mm.
Again, I don't want the kids to throw up. I will adjust rest times, but you will do hard work on Friday. Everyone knows Friday's our prowler day. So I don't know why that is, because when I was growing up, it was bomb the legs, bomb the legs. And I'm glad I did. I just don't know how effective it was. So that's the other thing. That's maybe more global. Um, what was the other thing? So
Uh,
go
as
ahead.
people implement it, but also to your one of your points, you're like, I don't know how this is happening. What you're explaining is step cycling, right?
Yeah,
It's this is what I love about kettlebells because I love barbell. Don't get me wrong, but I love
yeah,
kettlebells because the old sets used to have like you would have like an 18, a 24, and a
yeah,
32. So you would be pressing the 18,
forever.
right? Until you got down. So every rep is perfect. It's light enough where I'm gonna, get the form down and technique, but it's just heavy enough where it's gonna give me that mechanical
Yeah, the
stress.
wrist. Yeah,
And then you're gonna now you earn yourself
yeah.
up a bell, and then you can work there for a little while. But what you're doing is you're staying at those weights, like you're saying, and people want this progression. It doesn't.
Yes,
Life doesn't look like that. It
no,
goes like this.
yes.
It goes up
Well,
and
I
down a
say
little bit. Yeah.
the macro picture is this.
Right.
When you hone in, it's very. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So,
Uh-huh.
and it's when I started doing that, I started doing that during the season because we train fucking hard during the season. Now I'm smart about what we do, but our kids usually end up stronger. If they don't get hurt, they will be stronger. Long story short, I auto regulate everything we do. Everything we do is auto regulated. So you can walk in and know like, oh, this kid's not looking good. Or you watch the first couple sets. Listen, we're backing off today. This is not going to hurt. We had one year we cut out we trap bar and we bench press. Those are our main lifts during the season. We don't squat at all. Hamstrings get too tired. Like the kids, everyone almost plays both ways. What's the fucking point? So long story short, there was a couple. We trap bar on Monday. There was 3 Mondays in a row we didn't trap bar. I'm like, no way. The kids I can just tell. So that's 3 weeks. The fourth week we come in, almost everyone PRs. And I was like, oh my God, I thought you can't do that. Because we didn't do 225 for five, 230 for five, 235. How the fuck did this happen? And I was like, well, it just shows like you do what your body is prepared for that day, and then let the chips fall where they may. And the other thing, this is uh, during those weeks that we couldn't trap bar, when we came to Wednesday and bench press, I'm like, I don't want the kids to know that they're weak when they're in the season. Okay. Because then that's going to carry into their attitude. So when I know that they're not going to bench well, we just drop to what I call our first set. We just do tons of reps there because they can smoke those reps. So even if they can't, maybe they're not that strong, they can still get 15 reps and 3 sets of 15, right? Just obnoxious pump work. We did that. Then we go back and hit something heavy like 6 weeks later. Everyone's bench went up. And I was like, oh my God, the kids just need to do reps. Imagine that. I was like, oh my God, we don't need to do cluster singles at 90%. No, the kids just need to do this over and over again. I was like, oh my God, it's really weird. And it's almost this season, in every off season and in season, I have a goal. This off season was just do less. We're just doing less. Whatever we're doing less of it. And as soon as I got away from that, everyone started getting too tired. And then I have a good friend that I call all the time. I always put him in his place, and he's like, let me tell you what I'm doing. Like, dude, that sucks. That's just a horrible idea. So I sat down and just talked it out. I'm like, I'm doing too much. I'm doing too much. And so as soon as I don't know how to put this, I always, we auto regulate everything, but you have to account for the daily readiness, you know. And the weird thing is, you know how when women are in prison, everyone's cycles. You know,
Line up. Yeah.
when you have 60 kids in that weight room and you can hear a pin drop in there, the kids can't train very hard. Like it's like everyone. There's not like half the team's going bananas and the other one's like this. It's like either everyone's good to go or no one's good to go. Obviously not 100%, but it's nuts. I remember because our weight room's on the second floor. I was walking up the stairs, And I was like, oh my God, I got the time wrong. Like, how do I get the time wrong? We train at, whatever time it was. There were 60 kids and there was so quiet. I'm like, listen, we're just going to do some push-ups, some dumbbell bench. We'll do some chin-ups, and we're going to leave. That's all we're doing today.
Yeah.
And by the way, you want to see kids' attitude improve? Tell them they're not squatting that day.
Yeah.
We didn't
Yeah.
squat this Monday, and I didn't tell anyone until like after we got done with the warm up. Oh my God, that assistance work. The kids were like, because they didn't know
Yeah.
what they're all this. Yeah,
Nice.
that's when the kids aren't you, so to speak. Because I would have been, devastated if I, even if I was run down.
I've been looking forward to it all weekend.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. And so, but it's been, I don't know. I've done a lot of this stuff. Like all my stuff that I do and my wife does, it's all volunteer work. We don't get paid. I think when I started that job, and I'm just trying to pass this on because it got passed on to me by my mother. I think it's important you give something back. I understand not everyone has that opportunity, but we live so far below our means financially uh, that we're able to do a lot of stuff for free. And it's the best thing I've ever done. Not because it's for free, it's because I got a whole small community and I'm part of it now. Like I'm not curing cancer, but guess what? Either are you. No one is, by the way,
Hmm.
no one's curing cancer. And so I just think, whatever you're good at, if you can, whether it's my mom cooked for the homeless for years and years, and because she loves cooking and that's what she was good at. So she's like, fine, I'll just do it. And so that's kind of what inspired me. So I think, and we have a whole group of moms and dads that even when their kids leave, like one was a terrific photographer. He does comes to every single game and photographs. I mean, amazing pictures. We got moms who help cook, help do this. We had some families take in kids. That's normal. Like if a kid, parents, something happens, I'm not going to judge. They adopt them. I mean, that's why I love living in a small community. We, kind of help each other out. So it's been an awesome experience for me. And I'd love to be able to train like the Cleveland Browns, right? But how I'd rather train a kid who's 5'10", 145 pounds and turn him into something his senior year. And he's changed, his life has changed.
Yeah.
So
And just and being of service is like one of the
yes,
best things
yes,
that you can possibly do with your life. And
yep,
I appreciate guys like you, your wife, and everybody that's involved over there in London. Like that's something that's amazing, and that community will always have
yeah,
that tight knitness from that.
yeah.
And you don't see that anymore, or rarely. So I love that. That's amazing.
15 years ago, I would have said happiness isn't the most important thing. I mean, I'm not sure how you define that, but now I think service. I'm training a couple kids for free during the summer. They come in I'm like, yeah, if I can do it, I don't care. Let's have some fun together. And I'm not saying like, listen, I got plenty of faults and I'm not perfect by any means, but man, it feels good to be useful, so to speak. It really
Yeah.
does to be of service, like
Hmm.
you said. So, but that's just the product of getting older too. I still think I will say this. I tell every kid that graduates, I write them a little note and I said, listen, be selfish in your pursuits and take risks because you've got a small little window. And everything I regret in my life is things I didn't do.
Yeah.
Not that I did any real dumb shit. Let's just be honest. But take those chances while you're young and be selfish in your pursuit because when you get to my age, that's when that's now that I'm giving back and letting other kids find their purpose, so to speak, or whatever you want to say. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah.
No, it's like when I do podcasts, sometimes it's like, all right, let's get the details, sets and reps and
Yeah.
percentages, whatever it may be. But no, this is the big, like, we barely talked that, right? We
Let me
talked
tell you,
about building
it doesn't
character.
matter.
Yeah,
It
right.
doesn't matter that
Hmm.
much. 8 reps, like Nebraska, possibly the greatest football teams in my generation, the 80s and 90s. They did a lot of sets of 10. Oh my God. You can't be explosive. Yes, you can.
Yeah,
So I always laugh like 8 reps or 5 reps. I'm like, fucking flip a coin. Who cares? Are they done perfectly? Are they done correctly? It's all right. You're good. Uh,
yeah,
so yeah, I laugh. I got a question the other day about dead stop deadlifts or touch and go. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like I remember when this stuff used to matter. I'm like, are the reps done right? Are you good to go? Doesn't really matter that much in the big scheme of things. And that comes with experience and maturity and stuff. But I find like, oh my God, people care about this stuff. And they do.
Yeah.
I understand because I did too, but it's just when you see the big picture, I'm not terribly concerned. So yeah.
Right. What's the Mike Boyle saying? It's like we have to be like an information filter. It's just
Yeah.
like don't worry about like the minutia of everything. Like just get like
Oh,
the basics down and
yeah.
like let's rip. Let's go.
I get asked like, do you guys high bar, low bar? I'm like, yeah, whatever the kids want to do.
Yeah.
If the kid high bar squats perfectly, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
No, put it down. Who cares?
Uh,
If the kid wanted a front squat, I'm like, I don't give a shit. Let's front squat. You're going to be
yeah.
good at front squats? I don't care. Don't care. So anyway,
Well, but yo, this was awesome. It was amazing to talk to you.
I
This is a
appreciate
great,
it, Tony.
yeah, great conversation. If people want to find you, where are you located on like social media for the
So
listeners?
there's I post on Instagram most, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times a week. And so that's just, I think, Jim Wendler. I'm sure if you type in my name, it'll come up. Every Friday on YouTube, we do a live stream at 10 a.m. Eastern time on Fridays. So I just get on basically what you see right here, and then I just answer any question that comes on the chat. And then I have someone who does all the YouTube shorts, who takes little clips from there and puts them into fancy little things, who does a terrific job, which I love. And then we also have the Jim Wendler Forum. It's a training forum, just like back in the day. It's paid. It's $5 a month, and it is 1,000% uh, uh, political free. It's if you want to talk training, and we've built it up over, I want to say, probably 14 years, and tons of good dudes that have been on there forever. We got coaches, we got older guys, we got younger guys, a lot of people with experience. And it's, you got a training question or want to, like, I post every single workout we do with the team. You can be absolutely unimpressed with how we train, because that's what's going to happen. I had a coach come in one time. A lot of coaches want to come see us, and our coach is like, nah, that's kind of weird for the kids. And he says the same thing. You'd be totally unimpressed if you saw, like, really, that's, you guys did some dumbbell inclines, some deadlifts, and some curls. Like, yeah, that's what we did today. Oh, all right. So no bands or anything? No, no.
No.
It's just good reps, and then we get pumped up. So anyway, but yeah, I love doing the live streams. I really do. It's been fun for me. I always like, I know I'm just talking like I've given a million presentations and seminars and stuff, but my favorite thing is when I just sit down in front of an audience and let's get your questions answered. Not saying I have all the answers, because I certainly don't, but I love doing that stuff. I'd rather do that than prepare a PowerPoint. Now you got 100 people in the audience. Like, if you got it, like, you came here and paid, so ask me what you want to know. I'm not going to answer all your questions sitting up here with a PowerPoint. Oh, it's so, you know what I'm saying? I've been to those things, and they go,
Oh yeah. There's like a million words on the slide. You're like,
that's
oh no,
that's
no.
I got a book one time. I didn't, but Dave bought a book about PowerPoint, and it was like $50 about how to do PowerPoint. And it was, if you saw it, you'd be like, $50 for this. I learned more about presenting in that $50. It was fucking stapled, or like spiral. It was just put no more than 2 words or 3 words on a slide, have really good pictures. That's it. Because you don't want people up there. And I was like, oh my God, that's how important it is to just give a good presentation. It's you provide them the information, but this, the slide doesn't. I don't know. The point being is, I couldn't believe how great that information was in such a kind of a basic binder. And I don't know. But yeah, you're right. I learned that really the hard way, because here's what we do on Monday, and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, I'm sorry. I'll let you get
No,
going.
no, no, no. But again, it's a pleasure to have you on. I'm gonna
Yes,
put all
sir.
the links in the show notes so people can stay in touch with you, follow you, go to your website as well. But
Yep.
once again, this was an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate you.
You got it. And thanks for everybody listening to another episode of the Primal Foundations podcast.